Hello. This video will take you through how to complete the peer evaluation survey as part of the peer evaluation process for group assignments. In a previous video, we ran through the steps required in order to properly set up your group. Now what we will do is to focus on how to actually complete the survey based on the information that you created before. The first thing you need to do, besides watch this video, is to access the peer evaluation survey, which is a link provided on your Moodle page. Suppose that you needed to do the survey for HOS 802, you go to the Moodle page and you'd scroll down until you get to the assessments and the section relating to the peer evaluation component. As you can see, there are two links. The link that we would use as the second link, and don't worry that it's not available now, it'll be made available when you're required to complete the survey. To access it, you simply click on the link provided. Once you've selected it, you'll come across a survey form like this. And the first bit of information that you'll be provided is some general information you need to know about the survey and filling it in correctly. So the key bits of information is that it needs to be completed by each student involved in a group assessment worth at least 25%, that you only have one attempt, and that you need to make sure that you have your student number, group name, list of group members, and other bits of information in order to complete the survey correctly. We'll continue on by using the example or using the group from the previous video. You may recall that we had a group of 4 called the Study Buddies, comprising of 4 group members: Amy N, Fiona Earl, Richard S, and Tim W. When it comes to completing the survey, you need to make sure that you use this information to complete it, and make sure that you correctly list each of the group members. Suppose we were completing the form for Richard S. We scroll down, and the first thing you need to do is to include your name. So given that you are Richard S, what you would do is you would type in Richard S. Make sure that you don't add any additional spaces, and make sure the spelling is exactly the same. So make sure that it is capital R for Richard, space, so 1 space, and capital S. Next, you need to include your student number, which, let's say for argument's sake, is 4041234. The next thing you need to do is to include your group name, and again, make sure that you type it in the exact same way as it is spelt on the form. So we have Study Buddies, capital S, capital B, with 1 space in between. So we type that in exactly as is. So Study Buddies. Again, no space. When it comes to your group member number, if we go back to our group list, Richard S is group member 3, which means that his group member number is 3. If we were doing it for someone else, so for Amy N, she's group member 1, so her group member number would be 1. Because we are doing it for Richard S, we use the number 3. So your group member number for Richard S is 3. Okay. So that's more or less your details. Now it's about including your feedback in terms of how your peers and how you yourself performed during the assessment. If we start off with group member 1, which according to our list is Amy N, we first type in her name, Amy N. We then need to fill in the following information which relates to Amy Ann's ability to perform according to different criteria. So with the criteria, there's a score of between 1 and 5. 1 means that they did the criteria poorly. 5 means that they did the criteria outstandingly. What you may have, as you can see here, we've got 5 different criteria with the accompanying weighting, but we've also got 2 criteria that's listed as NA. Ideally, you wouldn't, but suppose that you did. What you need to do as per the instructions is just to give it a score of 1, and it will have no effect on the results of this survey. So suppose that for Amy N, she was pretty good. She gave pretty good information. Her explanation was just as good. Her PowerPoint slides could have been better, but were still reasonably good. She was very enthusiastic, and she was excellent when it came to teamwork. So we enter in the scores of 4 for information, 4 for explanation, 3 for PowerPoint slides, and 5 for enthusiasm and teamwork. As per the instructions, with the criteria listed as NA, we'll just mark it as 1. In terms of the score generated for Amy N, it will only focus on the 5 criteria, so you don't need to worry about the effect of these ones. The next thing you need to do is to provide a comment about group member 1, so provide an overall comment about how Amy N went in this particular task. So in this case, for argument's sake, we can say a very good team member that worked well with others. PowerPoint slides could have been better, but she was otherwise very good. You've got plenty of space to provide a comment. You don't necessarily need to go too long. 1, at most 2 sentences would be plenty. Okay. That's all you need to do for each group member. The next part is to repeat the process for group member 2. So in this case, group member 2 is Fiona L. So we type in Fiona L. We go down to indicate how well she did with the different criteria. Let's say this time she was okay with the information, wasn't great with the explanation, PowerPoint slides were okay, she was pretty enthusiastic, and she worked okay as part of the team. Again, we put in 1s where there's NAs. In terms of comments here, we can just say that struggled with the information and explanation components, but tried her best. Okay. The key thing when it comes to writing comments, you want to be as constructive as possible. You don't want to be needlessly negative or over the top positive. You just want to be as objective as possible. Now, in this particular case, as we're doing it for group member 3, if we go back to our list, group member 3 was Richard S., which is, for the sake of this example, us. What you're required to do is you're required to give feedback about each group member, including yourself. Now, just to clarify, the comments that you make, or the marks that you give yourself, won't give you more or less marks in terms of the overall result. This is more or less a self-reflection. So let's just say, okay, we type in Richard S., your name for the sake of this example. When it comes to the ratings, you're satisfied with the information, thought you gave a really good explanation, really good PowerPoint slides, had a lot of enthusiasm, but was okay when it came to teamwork. The comment in this case would be more or less a self-reflection, so we can say, for argument's sake, made really good contributions, but sometimes struggled to work well with the other group members. Whatever comment you write, again, make sure it's constructive and it's in your best interest to make it an accurate representation. If you give yourself a low score, it's not going to drag down your results. If you give yourself really high scores, it's not going to boost your results. So we then do it for group member 4, which in this case is the last group member, Tim W, and we do exactly the same as what we have done before. So let's just say that Tim W was a really good member, and really you couldn't fault the contributions made by Tim W. So making sure to put 1s for the NAs. In terms of the comment, again, you can write anything. For instance, excellent group member, really helped our group. Perform well. Okay. So because you've only got 4 group members, that's all the information that you need to include. But this document or this survey has been made with the consideration that there could be as many as 6 group members. Now, what that means is that there are going to be sections which you can't really fill in terms of how your group actually did. But you need to fill in something because it's required. The convention is that when it comes to the group member or any sort of information, if you don't have that group member, you just type in blank. When it comes to the form, when it comes to the table, we just put in all 1s. So for instance, this group did not have a group member 5. So we type in capital letters blank. And a hint, we can copy that so we can paste it where required afterwards. When it comes to the criteria, because we had no group member 5, we just list them all as 1s. And again, it'll have no effect on the results. So we go 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, all the way down. Comment, there was no group member 5, so we type in blank. And then we do a similar thing in this case for group member 6, because there was no group member 6. So we enter in blank, put in all 1s, and then put in blank again. The last thing you need to do is to give an overall comment about how the group performed, and for argument's sake, we'll say that this group worked pretty well. Some members contributed more than others, but otherwise I was happy with how we went as a team. Once you've entered in the comment, the last thing that you need to do is to select submit. And if you've done everything correctly, then the form should be submitted as appropriate. Now, if you have a situation in which you haven't done something right, you'll be given a prompt. So it says that there's an issue with question 12, and if we scroll up, question 12, there's a situation in which we had 2 NA criteria, but we forgot, as per the instructions, to put in the 1s. So we select the 1s, scroll down to the bottom, and then submit. Take a bit of time to load, and then it confirms that your response or your survey attempt was submitted. So that is the process involved with completing the survey as part of the peer evaluation process.